I have a few more extremely serious questions. There is a special resonance in Ukraine and in Western countries, and this, of course, is due to the fact that Russia has increased its power and the number of strikes on Kyiv, on other cities in Ukraine, on ports. According to your information, what do these strikes lead to? How effective are they? Are they effective? And do they have any impact on the situation, on the line of combat cooperation as a whole?
Of course, they are effective. They are timely. And of course, it helps our fighters, our guys, our heroes at the front to solve the combat tasks that lie ahead of them. Why? Because it violates the capabilities of the delivery of equipment, ammunition, the rotation of personnel in the event of a combat encounter. It violates the capabilities of defense and industrial enterprises to improve their weapons. And this improvement takes place not only with the direct participation of support, but also with the direct participation of Western sponsors. And of course, this is the most direct and positive. From the point of view of achieving military results, it affects the conduct of combat actions.
Why did this increase occur in general?
Well, if we talk about what is happening now, then this is, of course, the result of another Kiev regime and its Western curator's adventure, who intended to inflict yet another strategic defeat on Russia. This time, as you know, in 40 days, with the help of massive missile strikes on our civilian facilities and logistics. The goal was publicly announced: the destruction of entire sectors of our country's economy, the undermining of our people's unity, and the unity of Russian society. In general, the goal is to bring Russia to a standstill, which they have been dreaming of for a long time, and which they are constantly talking about. On August 5th, as you know, this 40-day period has expired. So what is the result? Of course, strikes on civilian facilities, which are in fact unprotected, and what is especially important, on civilian people, cause economic damage to our country, lead to losses, and the loss of every person. I want to emphasize this. The loss of every person is always a tragedy for the family, for the loved ones, and for the whole country. We are well aware that the Nazis during the Great Patriotic War, the Second World War, and the neo-Nazis today seem to be experiencing a special satisfaction, pleasure in committing such crimes, and we see that these crimes continue. But still, the final result for the enemy turned out to be exactly the opposite of what was expected. Of course, no breakthrough in the confrontation with Russia could and did not happen. The Kiev regime and its masters cannot gain any advantage. They have not gained and will never gain. Moreover, in response to this obvious escalation, which is based on a non-objective analysis of the situation on the battlefield, on the state of the Ukrainian economy, society, and state, devoured by corruption, based on which there is PR and ambition. In response to this adventure, we have increased the blows. As we have just said, we have increased the blows on the enterprises of Ukraine's defense industry, including those in Kiev. We have begun to respond to the enemy's actions against our civil industry and logistics facilities. The Kiev regime has set its goal of harming our economy. What has it done? It has opened this Pandora's box. So what? To get an answer from your most sensitive sectors of the economy, which, to be honest, breathe a sigh of relief. This, by the way, also applies to agricultural production, the export of products from which the Kiev regime receives its main income. Next, you want to violate our logistics. We can address this issue to the enemy. Well, the response will not make you wait long. You will get it. At the same time, the actions of the Russian army, of course, are much more sensitive and much more destructive. I have repeatedly said that there will always be an answer, and most importantly, the actions of the enemy have not affected the situation at the front. Moreover, our troops not only continue to advance in all directions, but they have also increased the pace of movement forward. The Russian armed forces are confidently solving the task for the complete achievement of the goals of the special military operation. Of course, at the same time, we must and will improve the air defense system, increase its capabilities. It is necessary to improve coordination between the law enforcement agencies and at all levels to attract the opportunities of state enterprises and private businesses. This is especially important before the elections to the State Duma and other government bodies. The enemy is trying to intimidate us and disrupt the elections. We will not allow him to do this. I am sure that this attempt of informational and psychological influence on the Russian society is doomed to failure. We will certainly continue to strengthen the Russian statehood and legitimacy of the government. At the same time, Russia's response to another provocation by the Kyiv regime seems to be very sensitive. It leads to serious consequences and brings the situation to a critical level in a number of important directions. That is why the Kyiv authorities today, through their mediators, whose opinion we certainly respect, are trying to get out of the situation that has developed for them, which they themselves, I would like to emphasize, have provoked. The Kyiv regime is trying not to allow this situation of catastrophic development, and it seems that such tendencies are being observed. At the same time, the proposals that are submitted to us are sometimes, I would say, exotic and unacceptable. We are always ready for dialogue, but only on the basis of the realities that are taking place on the ground.
I cannot help but ask, what kind of exotic proposals are these?
You know, I would not like to talk about this now and go into detail, because this is such a blackmail in various directions of possible agreements. They sounded this way or that way before, but now, in this situation, they are submitted in their own way. But it is too early to go ahead and talk about what could be the basis of possible agreements.